so much better at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, on the plus side, the Niners didn't lose this week.
Both my teams won. I was happy and
It
surprised.
was a good week.
Yeah.
Not so much in fantasy though.
Oh, no.
I went 1 for 4.
I mean, if it's any comfort, I bet you even your worst team still outscored my team.
I don't know, 93.2.
Yep.
Oh.
I barely broke 90. Barely. Like, again, all my skill position players accounted for only 300 yards and a touchdown. Like, my two of my receivers, flex, quarterback, and one running back accounted for only 30 points total. It was bad.
Yeah.
But
I mean, this is like, for fantasy sake, I feel like the first major week of buys. Because there's always at least 2 weeks where a lot of teams have a bye week. Last week was only a handful. And now the real game begins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and like when I was drafting, originally everything was lined up that I was good. But then Wilson and Carson hit IR, and that just blew it all to shit.
Really, all it takes 1-2 injuries. Then you got to play the waivers, or even just a couple players not performing. The moment you hit the waivers, that kind of throws the bye week synergy you had out the window.
And fortunately, I got both those going on. But yeah, but at least the teams did good. There were some good games. There were some interesting games. I mean, there's also some surprising results. Like the Jags finally got a win.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a feeling if they're gonna win, this might have been the week.
Yeah, but I'm surprised they did it with Tua back. Gee, I didn't see that Gesicki went off for like 115 yards and they still lost. That sucks.
Sorry for the under the breath curse, but I had Waddle on my bench with 10 receptions, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Still better than having Thielen on your bench.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he like 200 yards total and a touchdown.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that the Eagles almost won though. That was a start that week up. That was crazy.
That was good. That was a good game. I'm glad it became a game, especially since I have Hurts.
Yeah. Now, if only Hurts would start passing the ball, to Devonta Smith, that'd be great. Instead of just running it every single time.
Yeah, double on those. So if we can probably dive into last week right there, then since that started the week, but I feel like what hurt them a lot is they didn't start running until the second half. They had one attempt or -1 yard or something like that.
A lot of teams have been doing that because the Bucs have a pretty good rush defense, but it hasn't been as great this year. It's just no one's been trying until the second half. And I think that's what's been doing them in.
I know. It's weird. It was really weird to see because, you start the game off pass happy. You're running with Hurts basically if you're going to run, and that's on a scramble. And then you come out in the second half, start running the ball. Looks good. But normally you come out in the second half down 2 scores plus. You start chucking the ball around instead.
Yeah.
Just funny how it worked.
Well, like also because their secondary's hurt, I imagine a lot of teams are trying to go to the pass first. But I mean, it's their defense looks really mortal this year. Like they haven't been getting the pressure they have, and their secondary has been hurt. So it's like I'll be curious to see actually how it goes. I'm like, yeah, they're sitting at 5-1, but I mean, they haven't felt like a strong 5-1. Yeah, it's like now I'm looking at the only game that wasn't close, like within 10 points or more, was the Dolphins. They beat the Eagles by 6, the Patriots by 2, lost the Rams by 10. Oh, I guess the Falcons. They beat the Falcons by like 20, and the Cowboys by 3. So the only strong wins they had was Falcons and Dolphins at home. That's
And I mean, part of that might be coming down to as a team, they know how to put a game away, as opposed to the other teams they've played where they're a little younger or like they're still getting that putting a game away. Because I mean, we saw it. Not to like just skip to the bottom of the list, but we kind of saw it with the Titans and Buffalo. Like, do you play the strategy game? Do you go hard into it? Like,
I mean, part of that one, I think it was just like, I don't know. The Bills were struggling to get stuff on offense, and the Titans defense were really getting to the Bills. And then on top of that, the Bills defense, which has been like strong, they really died off the second half. Which, I mean, yeah, it's hard to consistently shut down a strong runner like Derrick Henry, but it was one of those like you could tell that they were just gassed by this. Like, you know, you could, but like they were showing the stats like first quarter 3.2, 4. By the fourth quarter, he was averaging like 6 or 7 yards carry, which, yeah. And I think that's really what did it, is just their defense wasn't able to get a bunch of stops. They were giving up too many third downs, second downs.
They were getting off the field.
Yeah. Like it was like, by the third quarter, I was just watching their D tackle just get blown off the line. Like even just in single coverage. And that's like one of those, yeah, if your D linemen are getting pushed back 1 to 2 yards, it doesn't matter who's running back is, they're going to start running on you.
Yeah. It's a point where it doesn't matter who's back there. They're worn down like that, especially by King Henry over there.
Yeah.
I saw the stat. He's lead rusher in the league by 286.
That's pretty insane. Although also, like, have you noticed like a lot of the other top running backs are all hurt? Aaron Jones has been hurt. McCaffrey's missed how many games? Dalvin Cook's missed a couple games. And then Zeke hasn't been playing like he normally has. It's like all the top running backs other than Henry have been injured.
Yeah, so I mean, like Zeke's being mitigated to a power run back role because he's splitting reps pretty evenly with Pollard now. To even add to your list, Chubb, he's beat up.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and also like a lot of teams, either they came in with injuries at running back or they're doing like running back committee where it's like, you know, Green Bay has Jones and Dillon, Cowboys have Zeke and can't remember his name, Pollard. Even like before Carson got hurt, the Seahawks had a couple different guys. There's a lot more teams that are going with the whole two-headed monster approach because I think they realize that A, having to change the pace backs gives you a lot more variety, and B, it's almost like an insurance policy if one gets hurt. So, and just because it's rare that someone's going to stay as healthy as Henry stayed, I imagine that's part of it too.
Yeah, I feel that too, especially like when you split the reps between two backs, like your lead back tends to last longer throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely makes sense. I feel like the only lead back that might, if he can stay healthy, keep up with them. I mean, Jones is starting to turn back. He got me a fair amount of points last week.
He got like 20, I think. 21.
Yeah, Kamara. But
even Kamara, I think, missed some time this year, I think.
He did, I think. I think he missed a game. But I feel like his crown is going to be in all-purpose yards. It's not really going to be strictly running on the ground. Cook could, but Cook gets injured.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this Kamara is more in the style of McCaffrey, where he does everything. He's a speedster, bruiser, get out the run, passing, just moving all over the field.
Yeah.
Like and that's props to Henry for staying healthy, especially being like one of the very few like power backs. Not just power back, but the only back on the team. Like
you could say he's one of the few traditional running backs we still have out there. Besides like Chubb, I feel like is still there. Zeke is, but he's losing a step, which is kind of sad. But like the big backs, especially in fantasy now, are these dual threat backs like your Eckler, Even Cook gets a lot of dump checkdowns.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he's more built for that.
Well,
Traditional role.
Henry reminds me a lot of AP. He really does, where it's like he is going to run at you. You know he's going to run at you, and it's more just like, all right, well, stop me. The only difference is the Titans have a better passing game than the Vikings had. So that really helps. Oh, dude, like I would take Tannehill on the Titans offense over Ponder, Joe Webb, Tavares Jackson.
Yeah, the quarterback play is fair, but I have questions when it comes to like Julio Jones's health.
Yeah,
because he got injured in that game, and it's like, okay, what's he gonna do? And then they have, says AJ Brown, basically their other big name receiver. He's been out, and also
he had a big game last night, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, she didn't have a lot of points.
I thought he got like at least 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Julio?
No, AJ Brown. Oh, he had didn't get any touchdowns. He had 7 for 91 though. That's still pretty good.
Yeah, that is. But I don't know. I feel like if you beat Titans, you have to stop the run.
Yeah.
And make Tannehill beat you.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, but it's also like I still really do think that they really, really miss Jonnu Smith. Like that's I think really been their biggest thing is they don't have like that really consistently good tight end who can when like okay you want a wide receiver 1 and 2 are shut down, they're loading the box, okay we'll dump it to tight end, he could get you the yards, and I think losing him hurt him a lot more than they might have realized.
Yeah, that's fair. But enough about the Titans. I will say like that win, I mean, it helps them not only come ahead in their division, but it does put them in that picture of like they're probably going to get into the playoffs. Like,
yeah,
I feel like the Bills are the team to beat as far as the AFC goes right now.
I mean, that's actually what's going to be interesting is like we have 4-4-2 teams in the AFC, but right now the Ravens are leading the AFC with 5-1. But it's like, I mean, really the only divisions that are competitive is AFC West, Chargers and Raiders both 4-2, and then AFC North, like, well, the Ravens are 5-1, the Bengals are 4-2. But you go like the South and the East, Bills and Titans are literally 4-2, and the next closest is 2-4. And it's a long season. We still have like 11 games, so a lot could change in there. But like it does seem like those are just 3 top-heavy divisions, and the AFC West is just gonna be whoever can somehow scrape it out of there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the AFC West and the North are going to be competitive. I think the Browns are kind of taking themselves out of it just based on injuries.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Bills should be able to run away with the East. If the Colts don't continue kind of where they're going right now, then the Titans might run away with it.
Yeah.
But
well, it's like
the big thing.
The Colts, man, like they just even before, like when they had luck, they were always just like right there. They were right there. They just never get over that hump. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and I mean last week, their win. I don't know if you equate that to just the Texans team being without Watson and down to Davis Mills, who threw 2 picks. Exactly who. He threw 2 interceptions and just obviously like looking at the offensive stats, your leading receiver, 9 receptions, 89 yards is Brandon Cooks. You're next up with 4 with 44. You couldn't get a run game going close, 18 carries, 73 yards from Ingram. But yeah, just the roster they have right now, once they get that quarterback picks, I think they can be competitive, but
like again, they'll be able to play spoilers with their roster.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're like the East and the South. It's the Colts. If they start clicking, they're a threat, but it's big if. And then same thing with the East. Like the Patriots, they've been competitive in games you really wouldn't expected. And again, it's Belichick. Like, say what you will about the struggle they had last year, but I don't think many coaches could have won 6 games with the situation he had last year.
No.
And so it's one of those, like, the Patriots could turn it around enough to make a wild card slot. That actually wouldn't surprise me, considering how well they've done in some of their games. I don't think they'll catch the Bills, but they can still make the playoffs. And so really, I think it's going to come down to who comes out of the North and West.
Yeah, and I mean, I could see them being odd man out too of the wild card race. Just
like
they do drop these games. They're competitive, but they drop them. Like the Cowboys game, they led most of it. In all honesty, they probably should have won it, but some mistakes on defense, mistakes on offense. Like they just all it takes is those couple plays and you end up with 35-29. OT.
I mean, I was just looking at it. Like, so they beat the Jets by 19, lost the Saints by like 15. But then their other 3 games, lost by 1, lost by 2, lost by 6. So by 9 points between those 3 losses.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I didn't think they were going to turn it around this year. I figured he'd still need another year to really get like the pieces he needs. But that's also the thing is like with the way they are trending, between them trending up and the Bills, like I don't know how much longer they're going to keep where they are. I honestly could see the division flipping back to the Patriots next year.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it too. All they need to do is learn how to put that game away, which Belichick knows. He just needs to be able to get the players to execute it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure he just needs a couple pieces. Probably a new corner since they, traded off Gilmore. Yeah. And they'll probably be set.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, could you imagine how scary in East where both Bills and Patriots are threats? Like consistent threats? Because there's always one or the other. One of the two. Like, you had the one odd, it was always Patriots, but then every now and then the other team. Like, if both of them are consistently legitimate teams, that could be rough for everyone.
Yeah. Which the rest of the season is going to tell us something about the Bills as far as, like, where they might end up as far as beginning of next season,
Yeah.
Because right now they feel like the Titans where they're hit or miss per matchup.
Like, what's funny is, I mean, you had the game where they got, where they lost to the Steelers, but even then that was just like whatever. The Titans game was really the first time they really looked mortal.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, but granted, part of it is like they beat up, like, the hungover Chiefs.
Some easy matchups.
Yeah, and so that's one of those.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see how it pans out.
Yeah.
Well, also, down and look at their schedule, like. So now they have Dolphins at Jags, at Jets, Colts, at Saints is the first, so Colts and Saints are the first real test. Then they host Patriots at Bucks, Panthers, Patriots, and then Falcons, Jets. So it's still that's not that daunting of a schedule. Like realistically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those games should be pretty easy wins. That's half your schedule right there.
Yeah, and I mean that's partially what this all comes down to too. Is like, you look at the Bills, you should at least get 4 wins out of say the Jets, maybe the Dolphins. If Dolphins are clicking, I think it's a little harder, but you should win. And then you're out of conference games. Really aren't against like difficult teams.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny. Like it's weird to see the Bills benefiting from a down AFC East. Because that was one of those, like, I remember one time I actually, have you ever actually looked what the AFC East record was over the 20 years of the Brady era? It's all losing.
Like, of course you won the division. It was like the end of the NFC East last season.
Oh, it's even worse than that. It was... So I think there was a total of 6 times, 6 over 20 years, where another team even made it to the playoffs, much less had a winning season. 2 decades, only 6 times did you have another team that's even half competitive. That's bad.
And that was like make me think about it. That was probably like Rex Ryan era Jets.
They had a good season. There was the Bills had that one season.
Yep.
The Dolphins had like it was mostly the Jets. The Jets accounted for like 2 or 3 of those seasons. I think it was like, can't remember if the Jets had 3, Dolphins 2, and the Bills had 1, or it was like 2-2, 3-2-1 or something like that. But yeah, it was, and also like not only that, I don't think there was ever a season where there was more than just one other team that had a winning record.
Yeah.
Like every year, at least 2 of their division opponents had a losing record. And they still can't get around.
I remember. But we can get back on track here.
Yeah.
That Dolphins Jags game, which I should have made a bet on it, because the Jags always tend to win when they go to London. Don't know what it is. They always win.
They were due. It was bound to happen, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, they've been showing signs of trending up as far as like their running game going with James Robinson.
Yeah.
Like Myers finally cooling his jets on Carlos Hyde.
Oh, yeah.
That Robinson's a really good running back. It looks like Trevor Lawrence had a really good game, 319 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, he's actually still been averaging like 15 to 20 points, which isn't mind blowing for a quarterback, but considering how bad he's been, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, not bad.
Yeah,
and you got Tua on the other side. Who, I don't know. I had him as a backup on one league. I don't know if I still do.
I mean, 2 TDs, 1 int. Yeah.
29.
Yeah, I don't know. It's good to see him get it there.
Yeah, and I do like the team's fantasy value a lot more with him back.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, moving to the next one on the list, because I think it was Aaron Rodgers' quote of the day.
I owe you.
He's not wrong. There's literally only 2 other quarterbacks who have a better record against a single team than he has against the Bears. He's lost to him 5 times in his career. And Grant, he said it's a response to some person in like stands flipping him the double bird.
It wasn't just the lady. I saw the picture on Twitter, and it was like the entire corner of the stands. Like, there's tons of circles pointing out all the middle fingers.
That's fair, then. That's fair. As much as I dislike the guy, that's fair. So the question is, should we go through all the games last weekend, or should we try to get through next week?
I mean, we could maybe touch on a couple.
All right.
If we wanted to. We've already hit, I feel like, most of the important ones. Like,
yeah.
But I could get how you feel on the Vikings-Panthers game.
I was surprised. I'm not going to lie, because the Panthers have had a good secondary. I was happy to see Thielen finally show up again. I mean, I still have the singing feeling, though, that they're going to do what they always do, where they're going to be just enough to either just make it into the playoffs and get knocked out or barely miss it. So just enough for Zimmer and Spielman to keep their job, but not enough to get themselves a good draft pick. So it's great to see my team win, but in the long-term health, I'm worried.
Fair. I know. I mean, this is Cousins' last year, though, right? On his contract.
I think. Well, they just restructured it, so I think they. And honestly, with the way he's been playing this year, I could see them signing him.
Yeah.
Like, he would have to really drop off them not to extend him.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. Like that's where it's a double-edged sword. Like at the one time you're like, yes, I love when your team wins, but it's like if they do just enough to make the playoffs, it'll be just enough to buy Spielman and Zimmer another year and Cousins another year, which prolongs the inevitable cleaning house that they need to. Yeah, and again, like that's what drives me crazy. People go up and going like, "Oh, there's all this." Like he has yet to have back-to-back winning seasons. Every year has been playoffs, losing season, playoffs, losing season, playoffs. Had a losing season, so I was like, "Well, we're probably gonna make the playoffs this year." Get knocked out, and then next year will be a losing season.
Yeah, and just the quick surprise, which was the Ravens beating down the Chargers.
That
I
wasn't the biggest.
I didn't
one.
expect that.
No,
Yeah.
like not like that was just such a thorough beatdown. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, it seems like they were in Herbert's head. I feel
Yeah,
because he did not look comfortable. Like the second half I was watching.
Well, I think what's especially interesting about that is like, so you're looking at that, and you're like, okay, offensively, Baltimore didn't have a great day.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you saw that score, and then you saw Baltimore, like if you said, okay, the game was 34-6, you showed Baltimore stats, you would think Baltimore is a team that scored 6 points.
Yeah,
like
Jackson 2 interceptions.
Like, yeah, his rating was 68. He only had 167 yards. Not even 200 yards rushing. But it's like, and they had, like 2 fumbles too, on top of the 2 interceptions. Like, that's what's so crazy to me. It's just like, I don't understand how they were able to beat him down so thoroughly with stats like that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, powered Tucker's leg for 10 points, and like they had a pick 6, and
yeah,
over after that, and then just the defense stepped up, which is crazy.
Yeah, which I mean, that's Ravens might be the team to beat this in the AFC. For all the talk with the Bills.
Yeah, because they're definitely a team that like finds a way to win.
Yeah,
you can't count them out.
Well, it's like they almost have that Titans thing going with them, where if you don't shut them down early, they're gonna start running on you and getting those big chunk yards. Like that's the thing I've noticed. Every single one of their games I've seen, by the time you hit that third, fourth quarter, they're getting 4-7 yards per run, and then your defense is just tired. You're dead.
Yeah.
And it's even worse against them because it's not just a running back you got to worry about. It's their quarterback, who is like, if you lose contain for a second, he's off. He's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, and who'd they pull the comeback victory on?
I feel like they've done a couple of those this year, actually.
Well, they have. Just the week before. I'm going to scroll up. I feel like that was big. So, yeah, the Colts, right?
Oh, yeah. Like they were the Colts were up big at one point, I think it was.
Yeah, they were up big.
They're 22-9, 22-3.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
And they forced Jackson to throw the ball, and it seems like he has a couple games every year like this where he'll throw amazingly. But yeah, that feels like that's what you have to do, is you have to force Jackson to beat you. And you have to make sure he does it with his arm rather than his legs. But they lost a corner during that game.
Yeah, I remember that. Well, they lost the corner, and then their quarter. I think it was Wentz got hurt, and was it Wentz? No, there was someone. I swear, like the Colts had like 2 or 3 injuries. Was it a linebacker?
I remember seeing a linebacker go out, and I remember seeing a corner leave. Okay. And the biggest thing that just made me just slam my head against the table was watching them run the zone coverage the same, like every single play, and giving up the underneath, which gave them a first down every 2 plays. They're gonna lose.
It's almost surprised me that you run zone against a team that has such a mobile quarterback, because like the zone gives up the underneath, so like that's, and a mobile quarterback is bread and butter. They can do like so much when you're giving up the underneath. So that's why I'm surprised.
I'm surprised they didn't cover that zone. Just run the zone, running the zone. I get with the mobile quarterback, 'cause you got eyes towards the quarterback, so you see when he's running, but not covering that underneath route. And it was the same route every time. It was just right behind the line.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there's been a lot of that was the thing with the Patriots for a long time. A lot of people gave up that underneath zone, and that's where Gronk would kill you. Was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, you're gonna leave that open. We're just gonna drag Gronk along that side, and he's gonna get touchdown pass conversion, 7 yards.
Yeah.
It's the good offenses go, oh, you gave me that? Okay, we'll take the 6 yards. We'll take the 5 yards. Take the 7 yards.
Yep. And I think there's just 2 more things I want to touch on this previous week. One is, are the Raiders going to be better without Gruden? I kind of feel like they are, because it seems like they're getting a little more creative on offense rather than running what he wants.
It's still hard to tell, but I think that's a definite possibility.
Probably that's the way it's trending.
Yeah.
I will know. I think next week will be a good test against the Eagles.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's interesting. They have Eagles, Giants, Chiefs, which are all teams that have been having ups and downs.
Yeah. So at least 2 out of 3 will be a good test for them. Yeah, I think the Eagles, because they're just a tough team to play, and the Chiefs. They should be able to just decimate the Giants, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are always the Chiefs.
Yep.
Yeah, and then the Cowboys barely hanging on against the Patriots is still kind of surprising to me.
I was less surprised about that. I thought that was going to be a good game.
I figured it'd be competitive. If you told me that Prescott threw for almost 450 yards, they still only won by 6. That's what seems surprising to me.
So I believe that it was going to be a close game, and I thought it was going to be offense on offense. The defenses would be less involved. I'm sure they'll have their moments, and the Cowboys defense did with a pick 6. But knowing just how Belichick probably would be able to dissect Dan Quinn a bit.
See, I was expecting it to be more of a low-scoring game, similar to the game they have with the Bucks. First off, I was not expecting a New England running back to go off for 100 yards, considering they I think
that was a difference maker.
Yeah, that's I think what really surprised me. Because I mean, Mac Jones had about the game I was expecting. He was efficient, didn't throw for a lot of yards. He did what he needed to. I mean, he had some sacks, interceptions, but he was still it was enough to keep the defense honest. That's what really just blew me away. It was, 100 yards from a New England running back. When was the last time we even saw that?
I know. They have such a weird. Yeah. They have such a weird track record with running backs.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even realize this, but that guy got about as many yards as Zeke and Pollard combined.
Yep.
That's what's also surprising. The fact that they had to rely on Dak to air it out so much and they still barely run. That's what's kind of surprising to me.
So I think that's probably going to be a trend going forward with the Cowboys. I don't like it. But it's a McCarthy trend. Yeah. Running backs will fall off in a system. It happens. I don't know what they did.
Interesting.
Traded away Mike Evans to receive Ridley. I mean, I'm into it. Ridley gets a higher pass share than Evans does. That's for sure. As an Evans owner, I'll say that.
Evans is a tough one because he's a great receiver.
Oh,
but there's just so many good other people competing for catches in that offense.
And then Brady loves to just toss it to Brown too.
But it's also okay. Godwin, Evans, Gronk, Brown, and then you also have the running backs.
He loves to dump it down too.
Yeah. So I can make sense, especially because the Falcons struggled the first few games, but seemed to always gotten some sort of rhythm. Like they figured out how to use Patterson as kind of like their X factor all around. I think that's what's really going to start, at least seeing an older version of Natty Ice.
Yeah. I want to look at their last game stats real quick.
How about the Steelers barely hanging on against the depleted Seahawks?
Damn it, Seahawks. I mean, either way, I'm happy they won for obvious reasons.
I mean, yeah. But still, they don't have Carson. They don't have Wilson. They've had all these injuries. You only beat them by 3 at home.
So, yeah, but they still have Metcalf, Everett, Lockett.
Yeah.
Like you
but
have to throw
Geno Smith.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like it cannot be easier for Geno to make plays. And then on top of that,
but he still didn't make that many plays.
No, and that's why they lost.
Yeah, that's what's surprising.
Their running backs, Homer and Dallas, lower in the depth chart, but really swift guys who can make things happen.
Yeah.
14-man PPR lineup. Kyler, nice. Jefferson, Ooh. Hawkinson.
Ooh, you got CAH still? That sucks. Or is he on? I'm assuming he's on.
I got him too. He's on IR. Tim Patrick. I picked up AJ Green myself. Jamal Williams. I'm cooling on him.
It really depends on who's available in your league right now. That's the problem. Because
back,
Like that's the hard part. It's there's some people you could potentially trade, but it really depends on who you're trading it for.
Just personal preference looking at the names in front of me. Your best trade bait, I feel, is AJ Green because of how just hot he's been recently. And his floor, I feel like, is there. Just because he's a little older. So I feel like there's a chance he can get hurt during the season, more likely than the others. If you package probably some kind of trade of maybe if you could do Herbert, Green, Williams.
Yeah, I was really going to say Herbert. I mean,
because Williams is coming back from COVID, whether it's this week or next week, and then Herbert's value is gone. Collins, his value is only going to be there for as long as Carson's down, and he's, I think, 2 games away from being evaluated to come off IR.
I mean, but here's the thing though. Even when Carson was healthy, he still hasn't been as dominant because he hasn't been as good in the passing game. So that's where Collins been getting some shares.
Yeah.
So that's why Collins, and also the reality is every year Carson's missed more and more games. So Collins is the kind of guy I would stash. He's a Madison kind of thing. That's the kind I would. If you have Collins, you hold on to him because it's becoming apparent that Carson's going to miss time.
Yep. I mean, he did have a 30-yard game, touchdown against Steelers. It's a good game.
Yeah. Oh no, he had.
Yeah, that's true.
I would look at. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It looks like he might be back, but who knows? I would honestly consider Patrick is another one because just the reality is
that's true.
The Broncos, they've been very inconsistent. I love Bridgewater, respect the hell out of them, great guy. I don't know if it's just he's a problem. I think honestly it's a lot of issues with that Broncos team, which I wish Matt were here because he would tell you, he thinks it's pressing.
Spell it for you.
Yeah.
You want to talk about my donkeys?
And then also it's I'm going to be honest, I haven't been following Herbert very much. I mean, last time I saw, I think it was Montgomery was the one leading their backfield, but
Montgomery was gone. Last I looked, Herbert was the expected guy, while Williams was out on COVID.
Williams, that's who it was.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, that's gonna be short lived. So as soon as Williams comes back, or it's gonna be Herbert who. But yeah, I agree. Like if you could pull off a Tim Patrick trade for a decent running back, definitely would do it. If you need more value out of that trade, while not sacrificing kind of like a player with more longevity through the season, maybe AJ Green.
Yeah.
Because I picked up AJ Green in a couple spots, and I think I'm playing him, putting him in this week definitely. But if I need running back help, I'd consider swapping him for somebody.
I mean, no, actually, I'm looking at it as Jamal Williams might be another one to consider, just because he's a solid like backup, maybe like flex in a pinch, but he's not exactly like he's one of those guys where he's good for like maybe 10, 14 points a game.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
I think his average was around 7, kind of based on your scoring. I have him in a few spots, and it's like I'm thinking of just swapping him out on waivers because.
Yeah, well, I'm looking like his best game was either a 14 carries for 66 yards, or the 9 carries for 56 yards and 8 catches for 56 yards in their very first game.
Yep. Tim Patrick, Herbert, Jamal Williams to receive Montgomery.
Assume you're talking about David Montgomery? Or is there a different Montgomery I don't know about?
It's the one.
I mean, that one's tough. Because Montgomery's had a couple of really good games, but he's also had a couple of not really good games. And let's see. Is he hurt right now? Is that why he's only played 4 games? Montgomery?
Yeah, that's why Williams was the guy to go get. Because Montgomery was the man. I think that could work. This needs to.
Well, I guess it all depends on when is he projected to be back? Because I remember, I vaguely remember that he was there, and then I guess he got hurt, but I honestly don't know what is that when his timetable is for return. So that's really what it kind of depends on.
Week 11 is the expectation. So for long term, sure.
Yeah. If you can afford to do the trade and stash him, that's smart. But if you need him to start, or if you need someone to produce. Yeah, I mean, especially because we're starting to hit the times when all the buys start happening.
Yeah, I mean, not only with the buys coming up, but when you already have Edwards-Helaire, and he's on IR. I don't know. I pulled this from CBS Sports, just so you have the source.
If it was week 8, yeah, then I'd say go for it. But if it's not till week 11,
yeah. Just the direct quote: a trip to injured reserve, which would guarantee a 3-game absence, likely in order. It is possible Montgomery won't be back until week 11 after the Bears bye. That was as of earlier this month. I was looking for something a little more recent, or if they would just tell, knee sprain. Yeah, that's a hard timetable. That's a really hard timetable. Because again, that could be 1 week, 2 weeks, or you're out for one.
And you come back, but you're just never quite the same.
Yeah, because you can't rely on that knee. So,
yeah. I mean, so looking at where you guys have. Yeah, that's tough. So if this is a trade, I mean, you could look at seeing if you could trade some of the guys for someone like a McKissick or, yeah, I don't know.
That wouldn't be worth. He has Gibson, so I don't know if you'd want both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always tough when you're like approaching midseason, trying to think of those trades you can make to really elevate yourself.
Yeah, well, that's also like we're also reaching that point where you're going to start seeing a lot of the guys who are like third or fourth string start getting moved around for teams that have injuries. Like there's a few guys that I have my eyes on just because like they're way down the depth charts, but other teams showed interest. And if they get moved to those teams, they are going to go from like, third, fourth string to first string. And so that's really like why it's really difficult between buys and injuries.
Yeah, like is it Hines off of Indy who wants to trade?
Yeah. Like, so Hines wants to trade. You also have Marlon Mack, who's like buried in the depth charts, who have been like the Chiefs were keeping their eye on him.
I think it was Mack.
Yeah. Well, like I know the Chiefs expressed interest in him, but then they like after Hilaire, but then they just had just had a fairly decent game. So I wonder if that's So I wonder if that's going to change their mind. And that's the hard part is it's like if you have the space, yeah, sure, you stash something like that. But if you don't, is it worth stashing that guy on the hope that he gets traded somewhere?
Yeah, not really. But we can get next week now.
Next week. I mean, we got underperforming Broncos against the injured Browns.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
If the Browns were healthy, I'd say the Browns. But the Browns are not healthy, so I don't know.
Yeah, like even with Mayfield being banged up, if they had the running backs together, yeah, Browns.
I mean, I would still lean Browns, but it's also one of those. The Broncos are just good enough that they're going to have those games where they're just like everything clicks. I don't think it's going to be consistent enough for them to like really be a playoff team, but they're still going to play spoilers, I think, and cause some teams headache. So you know what? Just for funsies, I'm going to go with Broncos.
I was feeling the same. I go Broncos, donkeys. Just because, honestly, they're healthier, and if they can at least wear down the Browns' defense,
yeah,
they'll probably put more points on the board than a Browns offense that's super banged up.
Yeah.
And then with that, like, yeah, they depressed me because I picked up Njoku. He got hurt, and then OBJ just hasn't been doing anything.
Yeah.
The fantasy outlook there isn't great either.
Yeah, it's actually just interesting. Like, they just have not been the fantasy producing. I mean, honestly, a lot of the players, a lot of the mainstays from last year just haven't been performing this year. That's what I think has made this year so hard. It's a lot of the newer guys are really starting to outpace the veterans, like the key players on their teams, and then it also just been a lot of injuries, so it's just been really hard. I mean, like we talked about this coming in with all the different quarterbacks. It was just really hard to gauge who were the top teams because we're in that transition period between generations where a lot of those old guys that were like, yeah, they're the man. They're going to good. They're getting hurt. They're retiring. They're aging out, getting replaced by the young rookies. So
they're Julios.
Yeah.
Speaking of Julio, that could segue into the next one: Chiefs Titans.
Ooh. Before Monday night, I would have gone with Chiefs, even with them banged up. But after what the Titans did to the Bills last night,
yeah, I feel they're a little favorite in here. I wonder if this has. Oh,
I mean, it's also one of those like, if it comes down to a shootout, who do you think is going to win? The Titans running with Derrick Henry, or if Mahomes bounces back, which Well, I don't think they're going to be like, it's not playoffs aren't going through Arrowhead. I still could see the Chiefs bouncing back from how things went with the Bills.
Yeah, and I mean the Chiefs are apparently 5.5-point favorites over the Titans. And I mean, yeah, I see that, especially if Julio isn't going to play. He's questionable right now.
Oh yeah, losing Julio hurts them bad.
Yeah, because that takes away their 1-2 punch.
Yeah. At that point, they just double team Brown and stack the box. But it's also it's like the Chiefs, man. They have not looked on it. They've just looked off. It's that Super Bowl hangover.
So maybe partially a Super Bowl hangover, but what it is too is it's like these amazing plays that they pull off, which seem like almost every game. Like how did he get that ball downfield? How did he make that cat? They're not happening, and they're losing games because they're not executing the play on the board.
But what's sad is some of the a lot of them. It's like it's not just on Mahomes has been off target. There's been a lot of ones where
it's just drop ball.
Yeah, and not just that was a really hard catch. Just there's been a lot of, dude, you guys can make that in your sleep. How are you dropping that?
But it's part of it is Mahomes will make the play, but then the receiver just drops the ball, hit him in the chest or hit him in the face.
They start looking to run too early, or they just close their hands too early or something. It's been wild. So that's why it's. I mean, hell, even Kelsey, he's been getting good points. But he hasn't been the Kelsey of the last 3-4 years. He hasn't been the 30-point monster consistently that he has been. Don't get me wrong, we're spoiled when your tight end's only averaging 17, 20 points a game. Oh no. But
I know. You say that, but tight end play in general this season isn't as impressive as it's been in years past, at least with the top 3-4 tight ends.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a good game to watch.
That one
could be painful for fantasy.
You know what? I still think I'm going to lean Chiefs just because I have a feeling the Titans might be just tired. Coming in, it's not a short week, but it's still a shorter week. And then they had a pretty rough game. It was pretty physical. So I could see him being a little tired. So I'm going to go with Chiefs.
I lean Chiefs as well, but for a different reason. It would depend on the mentality of the team. And I feel like they're a tough guy mentality. But just realizing that they beat the Buffalo Bills in a very physical game. And realizing Buffalo just smashed down the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
They might think we're going to do the same thing and just maybe not be as prepared as they should be.
Well, it's also one of those if the Chiefs can get out, start making those quick strikes and short scoring drives, that's another way you take Henry out of the game. Is because he has the potential to pull the big runs. He really excels in wear you down. And then he starts getting those plays in the second half. But if you're out to a big early lead, then they have to start passing more. They have to rely on Tannehill, and that's another way you can kind of take Henry out of the equation. So, and the Chiefs can do it between even without Hilaire, when you have Hill and Kelsey. Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know what order you're listening because I always go to ESPN, and my order's already slightly off.
I use Google. It gives me just a list in front of me of games, basically the 2021 NFL schedule. The next one here is Washington Packers. And
I'd go Packers.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
they're more together.
Yeah, considering that there's speculation that Patrick will be back and will start over Heineke just because he's been struggling this year. Yeah, I think Packers is who you go with in that situation.
Yeah, the only thing I could hope for is that scary Terry McLaurin make a comeback and help me out here.
Yeah.
He's been giving me single digits the past 2 weeks after helping me defeat Tyler.
I mean, I wish he would be making a comeback because that means Heineke was getting me points last weekend, but he wasn't.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's hurting for missing their tight end, Logan.
Yeah, I could see that.
I took the pressure off. But yeah, I mean, McLaurin's hurting me there. And then, yeah, I'm sure any fantasy Packers you got are probably going to perform.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm playing Aaron
Here's
Jones.
hoping. Here's hoping, Jones. I need a bounce back week after the last 4 weeks. I'm on a force.
He did decent last week. He's been good.
Considering his 21 points was far and away my best player. I need a bounce back week from everyone. I need one of his 40-point games. Speaking of 40-point games, Bengals Ravens, huh?
Hey, that might be a good game. Like, if the Bengals show up on offense, it might just be a shootout, and you'll be a happy person if you got anyone for fantasy.
I don't know. I got Boyd. He hasn't done anything because you have Higgins and Chase that are eating up all the shares.
So Boyd hurts my heart because he's such a good receiver, and they just kind of shove him in the slot and tell him run a slant, kind of like a Juju. And it's like, instead of running these like poor little underneath routes, you could put him on the outside, but they're like, no, we want Chase.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, as someone who has had Boyd since the start, and it was great before Higgins came back, I agree. Honestly, he seems like the kind of guy who might start asking for a trade just because he's clearly a good receiver.
Oh, yeah. He's solid. Like, I've had him previous years before, Chase, and like super serviceable, like massive positive upside in a flex or even that second receiver slot. Like, great player. But yeah, he's just getting overshadowed by Chase and all these guys who probably want to etch him out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I would lean Ravens.
I would too.
Just go like, is Mixon? I feel like Mixon's been banged up this year.
He has. He's actually missed a couple games as well. And Shane Perrine was playing.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're backup, and he's also got. Yeah, so that's why I would lean the Ravens because, I mean, it's funny because start of season we were able to talk about how like, oh, the Ravens down to a fourth-string running back, but do you really need a fourth-string running back? I mean, when you have Jackson,
and like they have some good running backs that they picked up. They picked up Freeman, Devonta Freeman. He had a touchdown last week, and Le'Veon Bell, which it's like, yeah, you get him with some space, and I'm sure he's still got a leg.
Yeah.
But I mean, Malcolm Brown, Hollywood Brown, he's been stepping up big.
Oh yeah. Well, then they still have that tight end too, who's just
Andrews.
Yeah, you like, oh, we shut down Brown, and there's Andrews. Yeah, I'd go with Ravens there. I don't think the Bengals are going to upset them.
I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they like pull off a close win, like and basically get kind of lucky and get it.
I mean, what I think might happen is like they'll keep it close for the first 2 quarters, maybe even sometime in the third, but just by the third, I think the Bengals will get tired out, just because I think they'll have a hard time containing the Ravens for that long.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. And then Panthers, Giants, that should be a bounce back for the Panthers.
I don't know, man. Like the Panthers, every time you think like, oh yeah, it's clicking, then it doesn't. And losing McCaffrey again, that just talk about like kneecapping him.
I mean, so just kind of flipping through, like, so the Panthers are hoping to activate Stephon Gilmore this week.
That could help a lot, especially against Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and the odds are in their favor. Oh.
it looks like the Panthers have what is it? Royce Freeman is their main featured back.
Yeah.
I mean,
wait, Panthers? The Panthers? You say Panthers?
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. I was just trying to look up who the running backs were because I don't remember offhand.
Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba Hubbard. That's it.
He did really well. He ran for over 100 yards.
Royce Freeman's on their team too.
Yeah. No, they're okay without McCaffrey on the running game. So that's why I lean Panthers because the offense is still there.
Yeah.
It's just they just need to be able to execute because this is a different roster.
I think it's really their defense. Their defense started out well, but it's been struggling. And Jones has had some good games against teams you wouldn't expect. Like it was who was it? Was it the Cowboys or somewhere? He went off for 400 yards or something crazy. So it's like, I don't know. The Panthers are still in one of those, I keep on wanting to say, okay, yeah, they got this. They're starting to separate. But every time I start to do that, they fall on their face.
I understand that. But I also think just the Giants are a bigger mess than the Panthers.
I mean, that's fair.
So at least my expectations would be Panthers win, especially since the Giants are banged up in their key positions.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Giants are also missing Barkley, so
yeah. So it's if the Giants win, it's going to be probably more of a shock to me that the Giants win rather than the Bengals being the Ravens kind of thing.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Well, this next game I don't know. This really is one of the games where I can see it going either way. Ooh.
Cardinals defense against Houston or Patriots against Jets?
I would go Patriots against Jets.
I mean, personally, I think you can flip a coin and you'll be fine. But I recently made the choice of Cardinals. As long as Houston's still playing that third string quarterback, the Cardinals defense is really good. They'll probably get a couple turnovers and maybe even touchdown on defense. I got high hopes for that one.
Yeah, but it's also, I mean, the Jets, picking whoever was playing the Jets was a pretty solid choice points wise for a bit as far on defense. Oh, yeah. It's one for Cup and stuff. Ooh.
Trade.
Wow.
Evans and Saquon for Cup and Stat. Ooh, double.
How did you convince them to do that?
That's amazing.
They
probably really wanted Patterson.
But why would you give up Cup and Stafford for Evans and Patterson? Because here's the thing, Saquon, he's gotten hurt twice already, so you're essentially trading Cup and Stafford for Evans and Patterson.
Yep. Which is Evans is serviceable. Patterson, I think depending on your league, he might be labeled as wide receiver / running back, so he could play in either position. But no, that worked out great for you.
Yeah.
Dang.
Let's see. I want to see if it's still true because I remember at one point, Cup was one of the top fantasy receivers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's number 2 right now.
Yeah.
In week 7 PPR, he is ranked number 2. This is projection, sorry. But still, yeah. I think you won that trade by a mile.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because, man, who are they playing this week? Who are the Rams playing? We haven't gotten there, but...
The Lions. If you, depending on your point system, if you don't end up with a minimum of 60 points between the two,
so he's not a Packers fan, he's a homer. That's what he is. I'm sorry, I don't know how anyone, especially someone who follows an NFC North team, can see Stafford and go, oh yeah, no. Whatever, it's Stafford. The dude literally single-handedly carried the Lions for a decade.
So I understand his thought, but also I feel like he should have gotten more.
Yeah.
giving up. Like someone you're going to start week over week without question. And then at the same time, I avoid those home picks so hard because of the reasons like that. You want to play your home pick over like what is logically probably the better matchup or who's performing better. Man.
But like also again, it's like Kupp has been one of the best receivers, even just for the last few years. He's been one of the top receivers. The only year he had a down year was when, like, I think it was like either the year after they lost the Super Bowl. Yeah, where like, and it was Goff. That was all on Goff. As we are seeing, Stafford is a clear upgrade over Goff.
Completely. And like I kind of see, I wasn't high on Kupp coming into the season just because I had no idea how that was going to work out. But I didn't foresee this going the way it did. Swift and Thielen for Eckler. Good at wide receiver. Ridley, Cooks, nice Debo. Christian McCaffrey.
Wait, are you talking about? Is that Josh Jacobs? I'm guessing. Because here, like Josh Jacobs has been, he's been trending downward, and so far this year has been actually been like there's a lot of people like I think Matt Berry was saying like, guys, be careful, Josh Jacobs is here, and so far it's been
Kenny
true.
Drake's at his heels.
Yeah,
and it showed true last week. I'm personally very high on Eckler. I took him in any league I could. If it's a PPR league, it'd be even more tempting because Swift isn't going to give you the kind of numbers that Eckler could, and Thielen's going to be hit or miss. So
yeah, Jefferson Thielen's a boom bust. It sucks to say, but he is.
That's coming from Vikings fan.
Yeah,
and a Thielen owner.
Yep.
I'd seriously consider that because.
Well, especially like McCaffrey's gone. Playmaker. Yeah, McCaffrey's hurt. Chuba, I mean, he's there, but even he got banged up. And Jacob just has many years, so I had to agree with him. Even though Eckler didn't have a great game this weekend, I still think that's probably the better move in the long run.
Yeah, it would be the time to buy. Like I'd take what we say just with a grain because at the end of the day, you got to make that decision. But because of how high I am on Eckler, I'd probably do it because.
Well, you got to think of it this way: he's a McCaffrey. That's what he is, and so that's why I think it's the right move.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of loved picking late in the first round because it let me take him everywhere. Because I'm like, he's a McCaffrey, especially in PPR. Like he's gonna get those dump downs all the time.
Mm-hmm. He was my number 2 running back, but then someone else picked him in the draft. I was like, I was like 2 spots away from Eckler, then someone else, can't remember who picked him, but I was like, come on.
Was it me? No, it wasn't me. Oh yeah.
I mean, with the free spot, Waddle's not a bad pickup because he's had some decent games.
Yeah, I went diamond hands on Waddle. I didn't play him last week, which was a mistake, but I think that if Tua's in, Waddle's share count goes kind of through the roof. He's going to probably get anywhere between 5 and 7 tosses, I think. And it's just going to depend the matchup probably from there. But, I mean, Waddle, I think, has shown a little more upside than Callaway and Bateman.
Yeah. Well, it's like... Yeah, especially looking like... Yeah, I would probably go with Waddle of the 3.
Ooh.
Well, I feel like we need to put a disclaimer. If you lose because you follow our advice, that's on you. You should know better. For Javonte?
Might have to make one.
Instead of that little countdown, it's like the views is what's that generic the views expressed are solely those of the opinions. They are not the real opinions of Twitch.
Yeah.
Jacobs for Javonte. Honestly, that's almost like a wash to me. More just because.
I got it.
There you go. There you go. Like, while Jacobs having a down year, the thing is, I see more upside with the Raiders than I do with the Broncos as far as a run game.
Let's pull that out so we can see. So, yeah.
Like, I'm just curious. Let's compare there.
Do full comparison.
Yeah, because like I haven't been following Jacobs as closely this year.
I haven't either, especially since this is one of the first seasons I don't have Jacobs. Typically, he's a lower round pick for me.
So let's see.
I really like him as RB3.
I mean, Javonte's had more games. And he's had he's had 3 games in the 50 to 60 range. It's better than Jacobs. But it's also like, ooh, that one's tough just because the Raiders could turn it around, and next thing you know, Jacob starts going off, or it could be the Raiders continue to flounder because they, very rarely does losing your coach mid-season benefit you overall. Yeah, you might win more games, but you're still going to be inconsistent just because mid-season coaching changes can be rough. Whereas the Broncos are one of those teams. They're like the Panthers. They're one of those teams where they just feel like they're right there, and it just needs a few things to click into place, and then they'll be really solid. But who knows if and when that might happen? Who knows? So. I'm not sure I'd bail on Jacobs yet, but I would definitely keep my eye on Javonte.
I would too, and I feel like the big difference maker that's going to happen is if Melvin Gordon takes off or not, because within their timeshare.
Yeah.
Because I feel at least coaching staff they're a little high on Gordon, and they're kind of giving him all the chances possible to make him look like a positive piece of that offense. So current standing this week, it'd probably be an even switch for Jacobs for Javonte. But I think you might get a little more upside with Jacobs, depending on if he steps up and can beat out Drake. And kind of the same goes for Williams, but he's good. He has a larger uphill battle against Gordon, just because how highly they are.
Well, it's like I feel like the Broncos are one of those teams that's really kind of doing like a running back committee approach, where they don't have the guy. It's kind of Gordon, but it's really not. I'm just I'm comparing the stats, and other than that first game against the Giants, Williams, Gordon's a wash almost. So
I feel it'd be an even drop because I think you might get lucky. Jacobs might get a higher shark count than Williams. Right now, they're split. Williams and Gordon are split 55 to 45%. Williams with 45% share. Yeah. As it stands, I think you might as well hold on to Jacobs for a second if you got a spot. If you really need to make that ad drop, Javonte, sure, but
well, it's Jacobs and Drake are far more weighted in Jacobs' favor than Williams and Gordon. Williams and Gordon are pretty much split, whereas Jacobs still his stats are a lot better than Drake. So yeah, I'd hold on to Jacobs. The one dude. The guy with the face and the eyes.
The Raider.
Yes. The Raiders.
Guy with the face.
Yeah. Very technical terms here, Very specific. Speaking of Jets Patriots.
That's where we were.
We're not quite to the Raiders yet, so let's do Jets Patriots.
No, that was close. My eyes glanced over the Jets Patriots. Yeah. Like the Patriots should win.
I mean, yeah, they really should. I know you love Salah. I just don't think the Jets have. Yeah. I don't think we have to dig too deep into that. Why we think the Patriots are the favorite.
It's a little painful, but yes.
Yeah.
The Patriots should be able to win that on all three phases, and that alone means that they should just win.
Yeah. Like, again, there's a reason why I think picking up the New England defense is probably a smart bet.
Yeah, again, like that's something I wouldn't bet against, picking up New England against the Jets. And the same goes for their running back. I'd probably play him again this week if I had him. I wouldn't expect 100. Well, I might expect 100 yards, but I'd expect a little less because I would expect them to pull ahead and then lean heavy into the run game.
Yeah. Well, not only that, like, there's a stat where, like, not just Belichick against rookie QBs, but Belichick at home against rookie QBs. Like, up until December of last year, he was undefeated against rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, they've lost one before that because they lost to Geno Smith.
Stat I just saw was as of December of last year, he was on 13-0 against rookie QBs.
Huh. I'm confused.
Waller?
What I think about Waller, I think his first game is keeping him at the top. Yes.
So I'm going to preface this by I've actually thought about picking up Waller, just because in our league there's not much options. But like I wouldn't pick him up to be.
Well, hold on.
Let's see.
I'd say to confirm, you're talking about Darren Waller of the Raiders, who was actually like a number 4 pick when it came to top tight ends.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been performing up to the stat line that he had last season.
But he's still been he's been serviceable. He's been a solid tight end.
Oh yeah, he has. And like we spoke about that earlier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he has
briefly.
His worst game was 4 for 45, which isn't bad for a tight end at all.
No. And that's what we're saying. Like in general, like tight end play this season has been. You're lucky to get 10 points.
Yeah. But also at the same time, like we've really been spoiled by tight ends the last few years.
Yeah. Between Andrews, Kittle, Waller, Kelsey, like we're used to having these top tight ends that you can rely on, like a running back almost.
It's like at one point you figure you had Ertz, Kelsey, Kittle, Smith. You had Gronk was out, but Waller was still having a good year. Goddard was still having a good year. You had what's the name? Who was a tight end for the Cowboys? Like over the last couple of years, there's usually been between 5 to 10 tight ends who are like, yeah, they're going to get you 10, 15 points a game. So,
and I would say, statistically, he's being held up pretty hard by that first game because it's hard to beat 10 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. That's just hard to beat.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's getting receptions. Like he's 3 R5, 2 R4. He's getting looks like an average of 50 yards a game. PPR, that's great. That's at least like 10 points. The touchdown's a little bit of a toss-up. Like those are still great numbers. I'd play him every week still.
I mean, here's another way to look at it. So his 2 worst games was in a losing effort against the Chargers, where they only scored 14 points. He still went 4 for 50. And then a losing efforts against the Bears, where they only scored 9 points. He still went 4 for 45. So that's still like in a game where like both times the Raiders only scored 2 touchdowns or less. Those are still some great stats for your tight end to get in when they're getting shut down. So
yeah.
I mean, the backup's going to depend on who you have available. That's really it's going to be dependent on what tight ends are available. Like if you're thinking of doing Waller as a tight end, also who's he backing up?
Yeah, that's true. See, I have Waller. I don't know if I should pick up a tight end or another position like running back, wide receiver. I like to keep two at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm just a sucker for having two tight ends, one on the bench, one in play. But I mean, I picked up Derrick Henry. Oh no,
Yeah.
Henry. That name just
Derrick
rolled out
Henry.
of my
Happened to
mouth.
be available.
That just rolled out. I'm like, no.
Hunter Henry? Yeah.
Because he seems to be somehow edging out Jonnu Smith in New England.
Mm.
He had a decent game. Like, again, with tight end play not being.
Well, because Hunter Henry is a good tight end.
It is. But with it being not as crazy this season, like, I picked him up, let him play. He got me, I think, 5.2 in a non PPR, so good.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on how many people are in your league, too, because that's going to really kind of limit who you have available. Like, as is, like, even in our league where it's a small league, they're still running. Like, wide receiver and running back are both, like, bare bones options. So, unless you have some really solid backups available, I would probably go with Waller. Just because it doesn't hurt to have backup tight end. And odds are that whoever else you pick up at running back or wide receiver is going to be set on your bench most season anyways.
Yeah. Could pick up Goddard.
Oh,
now.
Goddard's available? I mean,
I would pick up Goddard.
Yeah.
I would.
I mean, that one's still hard, though, just because the Eagles really haven't been a passing offense. That's
kind of the depressing thing is that they have been. He just doesn't throw the ball. He tucks it and runs. But with Ertz having a really good last game with the Eagles, like, hopefully, I think he takes that step, uses his tight end a little more. And I know that he liked them in the end zone, so you might be touchdown dependent with Goddard. But I think that's a good pickup with Ertz definitely going to Arizona, which I picked up Ertz, and now I'm going to drop Ertz because who knows what's going to happen there.
Like, Goddard reminds me of Kyle Rudolph from like 2 or 3 years ago.
So who are the people in this league?
Gesicki's available too?
How can we join them?
Yeah.
I started to cool on Gesicki myself, but I didn't drop him. Like,
yeah.
I held on to him. And then to touch on this real quick, like, we chose Broncos. We gave reasons earlier. Basically comes down to Browns injuries.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, that one really could be a toss up.
Yeah. It came down to a toss up, just slightly in favor of the Broncos.
You have Waller, Goddard, and Gesicki available. Like, are you in like a 6-man league or something?
Well, he has Waller, but yeah, picking up Gesicki or Goddard as like a if I feel risky, yeah, I would. Gesicki, grain of salt as long as Tua's in. Goddard, I think, might start trending a little higher after the next couple weeks, depending on if you use the tight end like they did last week.
Unless your league is crazy, I have a feeling at least Goddard and Gesicki won't be available. Like, especially Gesicki after that game he just had. Yeah, it's against Jacksonville, but like after
the moment I read it,
hey, hang on. So, let's just I have his stats in front of me. So they dropped him after a game where he got no points, then a game where 3 catches of 41 yards. Since then, he did 10 for 86, 5 for 57, and a touchdown, 4 for 43, and then 8 for 115.
I think the same thing happened in one of my leagues, and I picked him up because I'm like, I have a tight end that I'm okay with starting, but I will hold on to Gesicki just in case. And like, it's one of those things. Like, the Dolphins are still fairly young. It's like,
yeah,
I took Waddle also like the end of the draft. It's like, I'm gonna hold on to these guys, see what happens with Tua, because we haven't really had a Tua size, like, Tua sample size. yeah. They make brash decisions.
Like, I'd understand if they just had him sit on the bench just because the Dolphins are so volatile. They're like a boom bust team right now. Yep. But to outright drop him after that, here's the thing. Honestly, I don't know why you would drop someone who's been a higher end player after week 2. Like,
Yeah.
week 1 and week 2, there's always so much going on, especially after like how crazy this year was with like roster changes.
I waited, I think, 3 weeks to like to just consider moving on from OBJ. And
that's
Matt Ryan. It's like a true toss-up.
It really is, because so I think Tua has a higher ceiling in the sense as like when things are clicking for the Dolphins, Tua's can go off. The problem is when things are clicking, I think Ryan has a higher floor. Like Tua seems a lot more volatile in the sense that he's almost like a Fitzpatrick. Is it going to be Fitzpatrick? Same thing with Tua. Which one are you going to get? Whereas Matt Ryan's like, yeah, you might get a bad one, but if you're getting a bad Matt Ryan, it's because the Falcons just absolutely falling apart.
So again, like based on your point system, I would probably start Tua just for that higher ceiling. But I think Matt Ryan, you have a safer floor.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, I think you run a larger risk of Ryan maybe falling off if the Dolphins step up and can take care of Patterson.
Yeah.
And Ridley. Like,
I mean, the other thing to think about is also it's like if you're picking them up to be your starter. So just looking at what you have next, like so Ryan up next, they have at Dolphins, Panthers, at Saints, at Cowboys. Whereas Tua has Falcons, at Bills, Texans, Ravens. So, like, yeah, you might get him good for this next game, but I got a feeling Tua is going to have a rough go against the Bills.
Definitely.
Johnny football.
But I do like the upside on that one. And then this makes me laugh because, again, like AJ Brown is one of those like fantasy names. I don't know who these friends are, but
yeah,
I know why.
Do you have room in your league for 2 more? Because I'm doing terrible in my league. I need more where I can feel better about myself.
Play Ridley. So if the guy you're playing,
just for the bye week.
That changes the equation a little bit too. But I mean, I'm playing Pitts too. Oh, and it's a bye week. He has Josh Allen. That makes more sense now.
I mean, I'd say Tim Couches because Johnny Football can go get fucked. Dude was a dick. If the guy has Pitts, honestly, I would go with Matt Ryan. And here's why. So, yes, if Pitt's getting points, it means that the various years still getting points. And if Pitts isn't getting points, there's still a chance you're getting points off of Patterson. So it's almost kind of like a whole... It gives you kind of like a safety cushion. Whereas, like, okay, if Ryan has a horrible game, you know that means also Pitts has a horrible game. So it's almost a wash at that point. Sort of. But also, I couldn't fault you for going to either way. It's...
Yeah, I can't either. Like, I liked Tua this season. Wasn't going to pick him as a starter off the bat. Definitely got him a few spots. Like, maybe play him in a couple matchups. I don't know. I think with his ability to run, it makes him a little more dynamic.
Yeah.
So it definitely a gamble, but I don't know. What do you say? Gambling man? I don't know. I'd do it. Again, wouldn't fault you for playing Ryan though.
Oh yeah, no.
But we can slap on to Eagles Raiders. I think at the beginning I spoke like it'll stay more for the Raiders because the Eagles are our team. they may not know how to put a game away or have their identity on an offense.
I think that's what it is. It's despite the Raiders' struggles, at least they know how to throw the ball. Whereas I'm still not sold on the Eagles having figured out how to do that. And it's not for lack of talent or capability. I just don't think they figured out how to do it.
No, they showed signs at the end of this previous game, running the ball, being able to set up the pass. If they can get that going against the Raiders, yeah, they have a chance to win. Their defense is tough, so I'm sure they'll be able to hold on during the game. But
that one's hard.
Eagles. I'd say Raiders, but again, if the Raiders can continue what they did last week, this week, and show that they're great on Gruden. How can you find us on Twitch? I think I have a button for that. No, just kidding. It didn't create it.
You didn't create it. Can't take you anywhere.
I know. I thought it was made, but it wasn't. What am I doing? Made, but it wasn't. What am I doing?
So, I think the reason one of the main reasons I would lean Raiders is even ignoring the struggles the Eagles have had in the past. When it comes to the run game, I think the Raiders have more potential. It's like it's Hurts can run, but who else, can you name another running back on the Eagles roster?
And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Like, they have a speed game backfield. They can't really do power run. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like they don't use it.
I mean, I'm really curious who all you had on the bench that was injured or on bye that he wanted to keep over AJ Brown. I'm not saying that's outside the realm of possibility, but that's still kind of surprising to me.
I don't know. I'm less surprised by it at that point because it's like, okay, if AJ Brown and Julio Jones are injured at the same time, you get Julio back. Who do you think is going to be number one? Probably Julio. Maybe AJ Brown's stock down. Maybe I feel better about letting him go. But at the same time, depending on who the rest of that injury soup was, like, you would try to do whatever you can to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I think Julio's an awesome player. Love the hell out of the guy, but
he's on a massive decline.
Yeah, it's you can tell he's one of those. He doesn't care about getting the ball. He wants to get a ring. Like, he doesn't care if he's third or fourth string at this point. He wants a ring. He's not spent enough time where he was the guy. I think he would much rather go, hey, I'm going to be third, fourth string. As long as I get a Super Bowl out of it, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. He's tired of Brown. Trying to sell him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a problem too. You ask too much for someone who...
He's not a bad player, but...
No, he wasn't. Probably at the time, probably through everyone's eyes, maybe wide receiver 2, not a clear cut 1. So, like, you got to decide.
He was in that 2 flex category, but he was probably asking for like he was a wide receiver
number 1. Yeah. Which is fair. You want to get the best. But sometimes you just got to settle for someone's like, yeah, I'm happy with this guy. Okay, let's do it.
So the next game,
okay, let's do it. Goff.
This is the one I'm most excited about, just because it's Goff and Stafford against their old team. Like I'm gonna pick Rams just because
it's just fun. Oh yeah,
yeah.
That touches on what we're saying. Like, you're trading someone RB2 flex. You want RB1 or wide receiver?
Yeah, no, that's too much. I'm like, and even everything else aside, I think McVay will do a better job of getting to Goff's head than whoever's coaching the Lions will in Stafford's head. Because Goff played for the Rams his entire career. Stafford played with the Lions, but he had like a new coach every 2 years.
Yeah, Stafford is in a better position, him as a player, with not just the coaching staff, like taking him out of the equation, but being able to adapt to that. And at least with Goff, they're not asking him to do too much. But yeah, I feel the Rams might just decimate the Lions. So that Cooper Kupp and Stafford trade looking up.
Well, and especially because it's like if you go position by position, I can't think of a single position group where the Lions are better off than the Rams.
Maybe running back.
I mean,
it's like more of a wash.
Like even with the Rams have like a hurt Henderson and whoever they have, I still think they have the better running back.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now it's Sony Michel.
And still, like Sony Michel, he's not a great he's not a power runner, but he's great in the passing game.
Yeah, solid enough versus Swift and Williams. But yeah, no, we don't got to touch that too much more. Yeah. Besides, like, hopefully for the Hawkinson owners, you'll get some points out of that because you know he's going to be dumping it with Donald in his face.
Yeah.
So if you got, I'd say probably Williams because he gets a lot of passing downs, and Hawkinson, great flex play probably, and Hawkinson's always
cautious if you have a Lions receiver.
Ooh, yeah, super cautious.
Ooh, so
Bears Bucks.
I picked Bucks just because I think Matt Nagy is even up calling the plays. I still don't know. I have confidence in the Bears offense. But with that said, the reason why I think the Bears can surprise you is if there's one thing that we have seen that can really, really is a good way to stop Brady, it's getting in his face and pressuring him. And that's like one of the one things the Bears have the capability of doing.
True. So it might be closer than I think a lot of people might expect. I think the Bucks will win. Like, I'm with you on that. I just think it might be closer. And I feel like one of their biggest issues with the Bears is Nagy and his ability to utilize his offensive weapons, namely Fields. At the same time, Fields is a rookie and he's showing rookie numbers, but
and that's a rough defense. Like, the worst situation to be in as a rookie is going up against a front four like the Bucks have, because they will be in your face.
Completely. Yeah, and who knows? Like, his first start was horrible, and he might have those numbers.
Yeah.
Or he might, if Nagy was smart, get him outside the pocket or move the pocket and let him create some plays. But we'll see.
Like, get him around the edge, do some screens, enough to keep them from rushing straight in his face. That's, I think, what they have to do. That's why they do it.
Like, basically the game that they create for Brady, where it's 2 seconds, balls out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm like, don't get me wrong, I still think the Bucks will win pretty solidly. When I say I could see it being close, I could see it one of those where the Bears hang around. Then third quarter, midway, that's when the Bucks start pulled away, just because the Bears offense doesn't do enough. That's what I could see happening.
And it's not that they're bad; it's that they get misused, and they're playing a tough defense.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, even with their injured secondary, it's still a good defense.
Yeah. No, they have great linebackers, and their front four, very great. So rough time.
Arguably one of the best front sevens in the league. That's not something on the face as a rookie. This one feels like it should be an easy win for the Cardinals, but the Texans, man, have just been like, I don't know what's up with them.
I'm gonna click into this. So to me, it was the quarterback play last week did them in because they just got all sorts of issues. They're a hot mess.
Yeah. Like, that's almost makes them more dangerous, though, because it's like where I was like, oh, yeah, it's going to be easy win. Then all of a sudden they're like, never mind. We're going to take you to the wire.
They underestimate their opponent, combination with they just show up and ball out. Like, it can happen. Like, any given Sunday, it can happen. But, yeah, Arizona should have this in the bag. And if they don't, then
that's a bad
maybe
sign
they're better without Kingsbury.
Yeah. Well,
That's
that's the thing. Looking, it's like the close games the Texans have had. It's Jags, Browns, Patriots, and the blowouts have been Panthers, Bills, Colts. So that definitely leads to Cardinals just
blowing them out.
decimated. Yeah. But yes, Mr. Jish is correct. Any given Sunday, or Thursday, or Monday, or in the playoffs Saturday.
Wild card Saturday.
Yep. I'll let you lead off this next one.
I'm gonna need a drink in my hand. Like, I'm probably gonna have to drink this entire, like, all of Sunday. I'm probably just gonna be drinking leading up to this game because the Colts are
sounds like a magical Sunday.
Yeah, a little bit. They smoke some tri-tip and drink all day because I'm gonna be dreading the Sunday night football game, which is Niners Colts, and it's because the Colts are trending up and they're looking good. So it's going to depend on if the Niners defense can stay on that upward trend they've been on. Like they held the Cardinals, and after last week with the Browns defense that looked really good in previous games, couldn't hold that Cardinals offense. Niners were able to do it, so that to me made that really impressive. So as long as they can hold back the Colts offense, I think they can wear down that defense.
Yeah.
And Garoppolo was at practice. He moved really well. I watched a couple videos on Twitter. So if Jimmy's starting, yeah, I think the odds are better that we win.
Yeah, like I think just that momentum inertia, that whatever is leaning towards you guys, just because you lost 3 straight, and it's like, well, after you lose 3 games, that's usually one of those, like, that's where we start getting to, like, well, something's gonna click your way eventually. Like, you guys are too good to hit one of those 4, 5, 6 game skids. So I think you guys can pull it off, especially because you guys have the tools to get in Wentz's face. And as we see, Wentz is a guy who can fold the pressure. Plus, he's one hit away from being knocked out of the game.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And that might be what it comes down to, is if he gets just dinged up in the middle of the game, like that might be a difference maker. Because our front four is really good. They can get to the quarterback, just the 4-man rush. But still, like, after that 3-game losing skid where it's like so close, then you can't put the game away.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't instill confidence. I'm like, just the fan in me is like 51% Niners. That's why I'm probably going to drink, just because the Colts have been playing really well. They're 2-4, but they've been playing pretty well. And this is going to tell me a lot as far as how both teams are going forward.
Yeah. Like, this is actually one of those, I think, a good bellwether game for both teams. Just because they're both one of the teams, like, they're still, like, they're hovering in the middle, and they really need this to start trending in the right direction.
Build that confidence and start winning some games.
Like, the only downside is, for you guys, it's winning the game. It's, at this point, a close defeat isn't going to cut it. You guys have had 3 straight close defeats. You don't need that. You need a win to trend that way. Whereas the Colts, just like, even being competitive, I think they'd be happy with that. Like, even if they lose, that basically, like, that's the season for them. Like, you're sitting at 2-5. That's going to be really hard to come back from, especially in their division. But that still doesn't mean that they can't, like, do one of those, like, they finish strong if they are competitive.
And that's also part of the most painful thing 2 weeks ago, the Cardinals, because I think Jimmy would have won the game versus Lance. He still had a really good game for, your first start. Honestly, really good numbers for a rookie. But that experience and leadership from Garoppolo, I think, would have paid off. And I think it might pay off in this game, as long as his calf isn't bothering him too much.
Yeah.
But, I'll be Bosa jerseyed up. Probably 6 Coronas down by the time the game rolls around.
As it should be.
Yes. Last game, Saints Seahawks.
I mean, just with how banged up the Seahawks are, I gotta go Saints.
Yeah.
It's
Saint.
Yeah.
I go
the Seahawks
but at the same time, like they're relying on other tools without Russell, which is what kept them in the game against the Steelers. So I think if they lean on that a little heavier against the Saints, like they'll be in it. It just might come down to that quarterback play, which I don't know if Winston could actually beat out Geno.
I think he could, more just because of what Winston has around him. Like that's not to say that Metcalf and Lockett are great, and even like their other two guys aren't bad, but you're talking, it's the Saints, man. Even the Saints without Michael Thomas, they still have they still have a lot of solid weapons, and Kamara's Kamara.
Yeah. No, I understand that, and as long as they can exploit that Seahawks defense, like they'll run away with it. I think it's just getting those exploits, getting Winston to just stay on task and make the plays they need him to make, and Kamara, they just say go for it. But yeah, it also just comes down to like if Collins can get rolling, like huge butts. I think more butts with Seahawks than the Saints, but I definitely roll Saints over Seahawks, partially because I want to watch the Seahawks continue to lose. And I think the Saints should be able to put this game away.
Yeah. But it's also, I honestly wouldn't be that surprised if the Seahawks pull it off. Just because, well, don't get me wrong, the Saints are still a solid team. They're still not the Saints of old. The defense hasn't been as tight. They don't have Breeze. They don't have Thomas. And those are some pretty big shoes to fill. So.
Yeah, and I mean, that might be part of it. Is it the big X factor might just be their secondary play between both teams.
Yeah. Who can disrupt the passing game more? And or pressure the quarterback more. Because both of those quarterbacks seem like guys that if you're getting really pressuring them, they're going to start getting shaken.
Yeah.
And I think Winston is more susceptible to pressure in his face constantly. I feel like he hasn't quite gotten that confidence that he needs. But he got more just because when you start really getting his face, it's the Brett Favre effect, where it's like, oh, okay, I guess I got to go gunslinger mode. And that's his downfall. So either way,
that, but yeah, I could see Geno maybe folding a little more than Winston though.
Yeah,
just because Winston's used to throwing picks in his career and bouncing back. So
I mean, it's like I was saying, like for all the talk we give, like shit he gets for 30 for 30, the year he threw 30 interceptions, he still threw for over 5,400 yards. I mean, how many teams would love it if their quarterback could just hit 5,400 yards, period? Like, if you told them, like, oh, you're going to get 5,400 yards and 30 touchdowns? Great! And that's it.
Yeah, that's the week. I don't know if anyone's still watching any more pro cons matchups, but typically that's where we call it a day, is going through the games.
Some interesting games.
General League.
And I won't be able to watch any of them, so I'll be out of town.
Oof. Well, slight oof. You'll be having a good time.
I mean, that's fair. But I would say, like, oh, it's the Vikings game. But I always miss the Vikings games. We don't get them in our market. Because, I mean, honestly, I've never lived somewhere where we got Vikings games, so I'm used to it.
That's where we need an ad now. We need a sponsor. We need a VPN.
Sponsored by Doritos. No, I'm sorry.
I mean,
that's behind the bastards running joke is how they're unofficially sponsored by Doritos. That's what we need. We need one of those unofficial sponsors. We just beat that sponsor in submission until they finally cave.
I need to create those. That's on the the list of to-dos to create artificial sponsors. Good times. Hope
Good
everyone has a
time.
good week.
Good luck with your fantasy moves, and good luck if you follow our advice.
Unless your name's Ronaldo, because of Brunklick, because I feel like you don't need it.
Nah.
Like the other guys in your league kind of set you up for winning.
Like I just feel like I bet you your roster is good enough to just like steamroll that league if that's what this kind of moves they're making. Like shoot, give it a couple of games, you might pick up like Hilaire, Thielen.
He had an off game. I'm gonna drop him. Yeah, you should do that. Yeah. Good times.
Good times.
Hope your teams win. Hope my teams win.
I hope my team wins, but I don't know. They got a tough opponent with their bye week.
Don't let the bye weeks win.
That's us tomorrow.